Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Kalanati. Today I'm going to dive into 2020 book releases. It feels a bit weird to say that. I mean, it's a new decade and all, but hey, more books! So as you may know, if you've seen my anticipated releases videos before, I do these quarterly. So in this first upcoming releases video for 2020, I'll only be covering the books that I am most excited for from January, February, and March of next year. Now, you may have noticed that my lists have become shorter recently, and that's mainly because I am super picky about what I actually put on my anticipated release list. There are far more things that I am looking forward to, but these are the books that I'm kind of committing to trying, and I will eventually come back and let you know if I have read them and what I thought about them. So this is not by any means a comprehensive list at all. Enough preamble, let's talk about the books. The first book from January 2020 that I am definitely going to get my hands on is Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. This is the 5th Wayward Children novella. This is the series that began with Every Heart a Doorway. And the little bit of the description says that this novella picks up on the threads left dangling by Every Heart a Doorway and Down Among the Sticks and Bones. And it looks like Jack returns as the main character. I am quite excited for this. Every Heart a Doorway is my favorite novella from this series. I definitely want a continuation of the story from that. I didn't love Down Among the Sticks and Bones as much as some people have, but once again, I would love to see a continuation of that and what happens with Jack and Jill, of course. After that is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, which I have seen a lot about in the preceding year. This is definitely a novella that I think Tor.com is hyping a lot. I'm buying into the hype. I really want to read something by Onyebuchi since I've just seen so much about him recently. This is the description of this novella. Ella and Kev are brother and sister, both gifted with extraordinary power. Their childhoods are defined and destroyed by structural racism and brutality. Their futures might alter the world. When Kev is incarcerated for the crime of being a young black man in America, Ella, through visits both mundane and supernatural, tries to show him the way to a revolution that could burn it all down. I have a feeling this will be a very powerful story, and I'm really looking forward to it. Another novella coming out in January is Prosper's Demon by K.J. Parker. The cover of this novella is just the bomb, guys. I mean, I need to look up who the cover artist is because this is amazing. I wanted to read it just on the strength of that cover, and I've also read previous novellas by K.J. Parker that I thought were really great. It seems to me that Parker writes a lot about questionable and unreliable narrators and does it really well. This one seems like it's going to be more of that. The description says, the unnamed and morally questionable narrator is an exorcist with great follow-through and few doubts. His methods aren't delicate, but they're undeniably effective. He'll get the demon out. He just doesn't particularly care what happens to the person. Prosper of Shans is a man of science, determined to raise the world's first philosopher king, reared according to the purest principles. Too bad he's demonically possessed. So it sounds like we're gonna have quite an inspiring man who's possessed, who might be destroyed by his exorcist. Maybe? Pretty sure I'm gonna love this one. Moving on to February, the first one is kind of a side note because I actually don't know when or if this particular book is coming out. I've seen so many different publication dates for it, some of them in the past. I don't know when it's actually coming out, but last time I checked Locus's forthcoming books list, it said it was coming out in February. And this is The Culture, Notes and Drawings with Ken MacLeod by Iain M. Banks. I am pretty sure this is Banks's like an essay on the culture or his various notes from the world building of that series finally coming to print, or maybe it was just not widely available before. I definitely want this. I've really enjoyed reading the culture novels, and I think that this was referenced in the Modern Masters of Science Fiction work on Iain M. Banks that I read. I'm just generally curious, but if anybody knows if or when this is coming out for sure, please let me know. I have no idea. A book that I am pretty sure is coming out in February though is Daughter from the Dark by Sergey and Marina Dyachenko. Now, the Dyachenkos wrote Vita Nostra, which is on one of my previous anticipated book releases, but I still haven't read that one. I'm not exactly sure if Daughter from the Dark is related to Vita Nostra or not, but between the cover designs being similar and the descriptions kind of having the same vibe for me, they might be related. But the description says that this is a standalone novel. It is also translated, the authors are Ukrainian, and it is described as about creation, music, and companionship filled with the author's hallmark elements of subtle magic and fantasy. It sounds kind of dark, disturbing, and ethereal, and apparently it involves a 10-year-old girl, a violin, and a teddy bear that may be a monster. I genuinely have no idea what to expect from the Dyachenkos, but the list of books that I need to read by them is increased. Another work coming out in February is Finna by Nino Cipri. I've been pretty excited about this one for a while since it was first announced as acquired by Tor.com. Not sure why. I like the title, I like the cover art a lot. And then I read the description and thought it might end up being a pretty humorous tale. I'm hoping so. I really like seeing humor in SFF. So the description says, when an elderly customer at a big box furniture store slips through a portal to another dimension, it's up to 2 minimum wage employees to track her across the multiverse and protect their company's bottom line. Multi-dimensional swashbuckling would be hard enough, but our 2 unfortunate souls broke up a week ago. Why not? That just sounds like a lot of fun. And then moving on to March, one of the biggest releases of the entire year for me is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This is the beginning of a new series from Jemisin, and it is based on her short story, The City Born Great, which is fantastic. I think the writing and the beat of that story is just amazing, and I so hope that this forthcoming series preserves the style and the tone of that. If it does, it'll be great. So the description says, every city has a soul. Some are as ancient as myths, and others are as new and destructive as children. New York City, she's got 5. But every city also has a dark side. A roiling ancient evil stirs beneath the earth, threatening to destroy the city and her 5 protectors unless they can come together and stop it once and for all. I believe that this is basically going to be contemporary fantasy, which is quite a departure from Jemisin's works in the past, which have mainly been secondary world science fiction and fantasy. This is set, I think, in the modern day in a city we're all familiar with. And yeah, I am so intrigued and ready to read more by Jemisin. Next up is a book that I'm pretty sure is going to be controversial, if it isn't already. In fact, I've heard some interesting things about it, and that is Docile by K.M Szpara. Now, I do want to read this because the premise sounds like something I've never read before. It sounds interesting. I also want to read more by Szpara in general. I've really liked their work in the past, some of their short fiction. But also, I just want to read it to know what it's actually like. I've heard so much buzz about it, and yeah, I want to have my own opinion on this one. So this is what a short description of Docile says. It is a science fiction parable about love and sex, wealth and debt, abuse and power, and the tagline is, "There is no consent under capitalism." Yeah, so I think this book is going to have maybe a lot of sex and a lot of unequal power dynamics, perhaps, and also maybe fighting against a system which sounds fundamentally capitalistic and stuff. And it could be uncomfortable. Like, it may not be something that I actually really want to read about, but I'm going to give it a try. And the last title on this list is Hearts of Oak by Eddie Robson. This one kind of came out of nowhere for me. I was just browsing the forthcoming Tor.com titles and thought the description of this was pretty interesting, but I've heard nothing else about it. So this is the description. The buildings grow and the city expands, and the people of the land are starting to behave abnormally. Or perhaps they've always behaved that way and it's normality that's at fault. The king of the land confers with his best friend, who happens to be his closest advisor, who also happens to be a talking cat. But that's all perfectly natural and not at all weird. When Chief Architect Iona awakes from a long period of blindly accepting the status quo, she realizes there's a mystery to be solved. A strange, somewhat bizarre mystery, to be sure, but no less dangerous for its improbability. And the cat is almost certainly involved. Color me curious. And lastly, I want to make note about one other release from January that some of you may be interested in. The first 3 Penric and Desdemona novellas by Lois, McMaster, Bujold are going to be released in an omnibus from Baen called Penric's Progress. So if you've wanted to pick up these novellas in print, but you haven't wanted to buy the super expensive hardcover editions from Subterranean Press, you have a new option now. I highly, highly recommend these novellas, and I'm super excited that they're going to be more widely available now. And that is it for my anticipated releases from January, February, and March. Like I said before, there are far more releases that I have got my eye on, but these are the ones specifically that I'm going to read and report back to you on. So let me know if there are any books that you're really looking forward to. I know that I am super excited about the second quarter of 2020. There are going to be so many things coming out in the middle of the year. I'm already just feeling overwhelmed. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again tomorrow for another day of Vlogmas. And until then, bye.